There are few creatures that rival the sheer mystery surrounding the Shrouded Ghost. Unquestionably the rarest Megalodon in Sea of Thieves, the number of pirates claiming to have spotted it is so low that many doubt it even exists. Until today, in a bit of an ironic twist of fate, the most recent adventure added by Rare allowed us to participate in a ritual to summon this mythical beast, and by that making it the least rare Megalodon to date for the duration of this event. But there is a twist: you can't do it alone. It takes the combined might of 5 pirates to summon this beast into our realm, which means we had to find a way to get others to join our cause. And if you've ever played on EU servers, you know that finding pirates who speak your language is about as rare as finding the Shrouded Ghost itself. But we will get to that. Birdie, Brandon, and I joined forces to tackle this journey, and with a spring in our step, we made way for the killer whale in order to meet with Merrick and Bell. To summon the Shrouded Ghost, we had to vanquish 4 other Megalodons first, but before we even got to pick up our quest, we spotted a Reaper sloop on the way. Usually, ships flying the emissary flag of the Reaper's bones are to be avoided unless you are searching for a fight, but I was certain that by helping them defeat the Skelly Galleon, we could convince them to join us in our Megalodon hunting efforts. So unfortunately, we weren't off to a great start.
No, the sloop sunk!
What? Oh my god.
Are you guys okay? Anyone alive still?
Yeah, they're alive, I saw them. They just sunk.
We told them that we wanted to fish them out of the water, but sadly, the only thing left of that crew was their emissary flag. In all of that commotion, another sloop had approached our area, and we figured that making friends with them sooner rather than later was a good idea before that Skelly Galleon returned to sink yet another potential ally. But these guys had no intention to hear us out, let alone join our cause. Brandon was itching to sink them in retaliation, but I figured that maybe I could convince them to change their mind. All we had to do was take down their mast with a chain shot so that I could board them. Sir, please stop firing. Hello, sirs. Hey, I'm on your ship. Hello. Do you guys have microphones? Please stop. Stop, we need your help. I don't know fight you. Stop it. No, get off that cannon. Sir, please just... We need your help for this adventure. Stop trying to fight me, please.
He's out of ammo. I just hear the clicking.
Yeah, we weren't gonna get far with these guys. No matter how much I begged them to hear me out, there was no payment great enough for them to consider putting down their weapons. Now, I don't want to glorify the sinking of vessels that belong to new players, but they were so hellbent on attacking any ship they see, including the killer whale, that unless we took care of them, we wouldn't be able to do our adventure in peace. It was unfortunate that we didn't immediately find allies to join us, but that's alright, because we had a bunch of Megalodons to hunt before we even got to the point where we needed them anyway. Our first destination was Mermaid's Hideaway. Together with a map and signal rocket given to us by Bell, we will be able to summon the first of 4 necessary sacrifices, the Hungering One. Bell also gave us an effigy in which we are supposed to stuff the souls of these 4 Megalodons we're hunting to eventually power the ritual. The Hungering One did not end up being much of a challenge at all. We simply anchored our ship and waited for him to give us a good opportunity to blast him. And a couple minutes later, the first soul was collected. Oh, I guess I should also mention that we've been chased by an Athena galleon. Athena's fortune is the only faction in the game that you can't access until you've become a pirate legend, meaning chances are that this crew was a lot more competent than the other ones we had met so far. I jumped off our ship to board their vessel so that I could request a parlay without us being in their broadside. If they wanted to fight us, I'd be better off sacrificing myself than endangering my entire crew, but little did I know that it wasn't them who wanted trouble. Do any of you have microphones? Hello? Hey, we're trying to do the adventure, the one with the Megalodons. Can you help us?
Kill me, please.
Oh god, that's Skelly! This was simultaneously the best as well as the worst timing ever. Me helping them take down the Skelly ship would certainly help me to establish myself as a certified good guy. However, they didn't seem hostile in the first place, meaning this whole thing was just putting me at risk of getting knocked off the ship. I did everything in my power to help them because the Lord knows I didn't want to end up in a situation where we couldn't complete the adventure because we didn't have any allies. Thankfully, the Skelly had been defeated without me going overboard, and I could finally engage in some negotiations. While this crew did not explicitly promise us to help with the adventure, they did say that they'd come over to help us finish it if they are still around by the time that happens. And with us having 3 more Megalodons to hunt, that was not guaranteed. The only thing they wanted in exchange was for me to send one of them to the Ferry of the Damned so that they could trigger the Fort of the Damned event, which is why they were chasing us in the first place. Well, having a maybe was better than a no, meaning the only thing left to do was hurry up and take out the other Megalodons before they were done raiding FOTD. With the first effigy ready to go, we returned to Bell to get new instructions. Our second target will be Shadowmaw, a Megalodon we could summon in the Devil's Roar. Getting Crosswind to help us get there faster was definitely a good thing, because with our new allies having started the Fort of the Damned event, we were officially on the clock. Passing by Morrow's Peak outpost, we noticed another galleon just kinda sitting there. I figured it wouldn't hurt to fire over and ask them if they wanted to help, while Birdie and Brandon continued to make way towards Ruby's Fold to hunt down Shadowmaw. Though just as I arrived at the outpost, I saw their massive vessel take off towards where we came from. Not only that, but they were flying under the flag of the Reapers. It seems that we narrowly dodged what could have been a dangerous encounter, but from afar I overheard their destination, the Fort of the Damned. They were aiming to fight our alliance, who was currently busy taking on that very event. I took a mermaid back to Birdie and Brandon, where we swiftly summoned Shadowmaw so that we could go and help out our friends. We had no time to waste, so I unloaded every bit of lead we had on our ship straight into that stupid fish to take it out, and the second soul was collected. We made way for the Fort of the Damned, assuming the two galleons were already engaged in combat. However, they were already in the process of selling the loot. Yeah, something tells me that those Reapers were not very successful. Them selling their loot meant that they were about to log off while we had only just handed in the second effigy. The Alliance disbanded once they were done, and we headed for Thieves Haven, where the Ancient Terror awaited us. By this point in the video, you pretty much know the drill. Head to the island, load the cannon, and summon the Megalodon. The Ancient Terror had proven a bit more feisty than his friends prior, biting us in the butt where we had no angle to use our cannons. But this foe, just like the others, would eventually find his demise. Having taken out 3 Megalodons meant that we had accumulated a decent amount of loot as well as meat. Steven Spoil's seapost was conveniently on the way back to the killer whale, so we figured we might as well sell some of it to contribute to our Hunter's Call reputation. It is the hardest grind in the game after all. Picked up a rowboat on the way and gleefully jumped to the seapost just to be met with an unfortunate situation. Wait. Are you joking? There's nobody here. Who do I sell this to? Take it to Seapost, brother.
My brother in Christ, we are at the Seapost.
We are at the Seapost. Well, guess we're not selling this today. Merrick, that lazy son of a gun, had left his post without appointing anyone to take on his job. Surely it is more convenient to tell other pirates what to do rather than just buying fish from them, but that also meant no Hunter's Call reputation for us. The light at the end of the tunnel, however, was that we only had one more Megalodon to go, the Crested Queen. Once that one had been vanquished, it was time to summon the Shrouded Ghost, meaning we had to find somebody to play the magical shanty together with us. And as fate would have it, another brigantine was conveniently on the way to Marauder's Arch, where we had to collect the final soul. If we can get these guys to tag along, then this adventure will be a done deal, but you and I both know that this wouldn't be Sea of Thieves if things were that easy.
Please don't shoot. No, wait, we need the help. We need help for the adventure. We're doing the Megalodon adventure. Please don't shoot me, please. Brother, please, we need 5 people for the song. Please.
Go away, please. No scamming, no scamming.
It's not a scam. I can show you the effigy. I'm not kidding.
If you let me on your ship, I can show you the effigy. I'm actually doing that quest right now.
Okay, come on.
Come aboard, friend.
Here. We are 1 Megalodon away from summoning the Shrouded. We need 5 people for the song.
Oh, okay. We just have to kill that captain over there.
Alright, cool. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Man, I was 1 bullet away from biting the big one. Thankfully, we came to an agreement and all we had to do was hand over the skulls we had collected on our journey so far. Another alliance was formed, we summoned the Crested Queen and collected the final soul. Of all the Megalodons we fought, the last one was probably the easiest, though Birdie did somehow get himself eaten by a shark, which at least gave us the blue flame from the ferry to complement the look of our ship. We were so fast, in fact, that we took a detour for another seapost to actually sell some of our stuff. That Hunter's Call reputation ain't gonna grind itself. Our alliance was already waiting for us, but unfortunately they had some bad news to bear. The guy that I negotiated with had to log out and his friend was not sure when he would be back, but a promise is a promise, so I captained his ship back to the killer whale where we would await his arrival. The last effigy was placed and we were finally ready to summon the Shrouded Ghost. All we needed was 1 more pirate to play the legendary shanty together with us. We waited and waited, but there was no sign of him coming back. To make matters worse, we also didn't see any other ships on the horizon, putting our chances to complete this adventure in jeopardy. Now here's the bad news, that friend of his never came back. The good news is that a lonely sloop spotted the beacon and came over to put us out of our misery. Together we could play the legendary shanty and siphon the power of the 4 other Megalodons to achieve what was deemed impossible. We summoned the Shrouded Ghost. Alright guys, battle positions, let's go! Oh my god.
Cliff, you should go with the other brig.
No, I'm not. They've served their purpose.
Alright.
At this point, it is important to know that I was the only person aware of just how fearsome this battle would be. The Shrouded Ghost is a lot faster and stronger than any other Megalodon we faced. It's not like I wanted the other crews to sink, but I knew that leaving Birdie and Brandon alone would mean certain doom for our own. Though initially, we were spared that fate as the Shrouded Ghost targeted the sloop. Of all the vessels that could be hit, that would definitely be the best one for our alliance, since it takes a lot of effort to sink it, but I still felt bad seeing that monster chomp into them time and time again. The dang thing was so fast that we had no chance at stopping its attacks. I could only hope that our friend had brought enough wood to keep himself afloat. He definitely was not happy. But as if we didn't have enough to deal with, Flameheart appeared out of nowhere, sending a whole armada of ghost ships at us. Our alliance had to spread out immediately, lest it be blown to pieces, and as Birdie went for an evasive maneuver, we saw a massive barrage of spectral cannon shots tear apart our friend who was alone on the brigantine. Their ship was sunk, leading to our friend quitting. And who could blame him? This was all sorts of messy, with us getting chomped at by the Shrouded Ghost while Flameheart's forces rained down fire and brimstone. Their ship might be gone, but their loot wasn't. Birdie and I decided to risk it for the biscuit, saving the loot before it sank to the bottom of the ocean, as to preserve all the effort our friends went through to acquire it.
Both of you guys get back on the ship. I'll get this.
I think our sloop friend sank.
It was just us, Flameheart, and the Shrouded Ghost now. The worst part about this? Our supplies were actually dwindling for once. With us being the center of attention now, we began piling up more damage and having to use more cannonballs than before to defend ourselves. We took any opportunity we could find to stock up in order to keep ourselves in the game, but this encounter was unlike any other adventure or tall tale I've ever experienced. The ghost ships dropping supply crates was an absolute godsend, but even better than that was an opportunity to attach ourselves to the Shrouded Ghost in order to evade Flameheart's barrage. We were on the defensive. Every cannonball that struck our hull and every bite the beast took brought us closer and closer to a watery grave.
Shrouded!
Oh god, go blow deck! I got repairs.
It's coming again. Incoming.
Back?
Another one. Another one.
I need buckets. Those are tier 3s, they take forever. Every time the beast struck, it left behind a maximum amount of damage. Tier 3 holes take longer to repair and fill the ship up with water a lot faster than the lower tier ones. We had to find a solution or else we could not last much longer. Unbelievably, our alliance sloop had returned, attracting Flameheart's attention to take the heat off of us. We were given a golden opportunity to strike their fleet at their heart and take out their flagship. It had left plenty of loot for us to collect, but an even greater boon to our cause was the arrival of another friendly vessel. Pendragon had arrived to keep Flameheart busy, and together with our slooping friend, we will be able to focus all of our attention on the Shrouded Ghost. And funnily enough, it wasn't the cannonball that ended this beast. Wait, what?
I shot it with a sniper.
Where's it? Where's it?
Forward, right, forward, right, forward, right. Right.
And with that final bullet to the noggin, we had defeated the Shrouded Ghost and completed our deeds. It is worth mentioning that this adventure does not award you the commendation for defeating the Shrouded Ghost as a random spawn, which I think is a good choice to preserve the rarity of that title. But as for us, we relished in our victory as we shared the spoils of the hunt with our alliance before indulging in one last bit of exposition. But if tall tales and adventures aren't your thing, what about you check out my last episode in which my crew and I went full One Piece trying to create the ultimate treasure map. You can find the card on screen right now. But until then, thank you everybody so much for watching. Don't forget to drop me a like on your way out if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and definitely ring that bell icon to not miss out on my next upload. I hope you guys have a day filled with riches on the sea, and until next time, peace!